relationships, having great relationships, is at the very foundation of becoming a healthy, thriving adult. And in my next upcoming episode of Real Reading Talk, I will be discussing just that relationship between that mother and daughter, which is very crucial. And Tierra Banks, the author of Our Perfect Chaos, she is the perfect person to discuss that needed relationship. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Reading Talk. And I am your most gracious host, Miss Sasha. And with Real Reading Talk, I discuss the real systemic issues that are at the very core, the very foundation, as to why there are low levels of literacy in the Black community and the ways in which we can combat these issues together. So, like I had said before, again, this is season 3. And my intention with season 3 is to make sure as much as possible that I bring on here for you guys phenomenal Black authors. And I just feel so blessed because my last conversation that I had was with a sister here from Cleveland who is an author as well. And so now in this episode, I have another phenomenal sister, y'all. She's doing great things in the community. She is an author. And she is just, bringing love and light to the community. And I would love to welcome to the show, Miss Tierra Banks. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so
Yes.
excited to be here.
Oh my goodness. Well, I am just definitely excited that you accepted the invitation. I love it. I love when I don't care how big somebody's platform is or how I'm putting air quotes small, whatever, what I'm saying.
No, I get it.
When somebody says, okay, yes, I want to come on the show, I'm just like, okay, I'm like, let's do it. I just feel blessed. So what I would love for you to do is I want you to, introduce yourself, tell everybody, where you're from, where you grew up at, just those basic, that little background information on Miss Tierra.
Absolutely. So I am born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. I am a product of the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. I graduated from South High in 2005, where I studied cosmetology. So cosmetology is actually my first love. I matriculated through that system by attending many schools. I attended like Newton Baker School of Arts, William Cullen Bryant, Mount Pleasant, Whitney Young, John F. Kennedy, and then I dibbled and dabbled with Catholic school for a while there, but that's not even mention worthy. But I graduated from South High. I still reside in close to Cleveland. I currently reside in Cleveland Heights with my husband and my 2 children, but we're still Cleveland at heart. Love the city, devoted to the city, love the people here. And, just kind of honored to serve in whatever capacity I have the privilege to.
Oh, that is super dope. And I'm like, wow, the product of CMSD, me too as well.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yep,
Okay.
CMSD, and then Shaker schools, and then last 2
Okay.
years, East Cleveland, Shaw High. So that's
Okay. All right. All right. All right. So we got
yeah,
that connection,
yes,
right?
yes, we do. I'm like, yeah, I know about, going to different schools and everything. So
Absolutely.
what I would like for you to do is tell us about just your family upbringing, right? So in terms of, how was it when it came to literacy, when it came to reading, and what kind of
Okay.
connections, did you have, with your
Okay.
parents and siblings? Yep.
Absolutely. So I was raised in a home with my mother and my stepfather. My mother has 2 children naturally, but then our house was kind of the house where if any kids needed a place to go, they lived with us. So at different times throughout my childhood, I had cousins live with me, older, never younger. I was always, throughout all the kids who came through the house, I've remained the baby. No one ever came younger than I was. Um, but my mother did not play when it came to school. Like she's never played any games when it comes to school. So literacy probably we probably wasn't using that term as much as we use literacy now,
Right.
but reading and studying and being the best that we could be in school was definitely a non-negotiable under her roof.
Mm.
Like it was top priority. And my mother made us read whatever. Like I had the type of mother that was, if I asked her like a question like, Mom, where do elephants live? She's not gonna say, oh, where elephants live. She would go look it up. And they'd be like, you can't just tell me. So, as a kid, it didn't always seem like that was nice of her. However, I do value it as an adult. We definitely had a set of Britannica encyclopedias. Um, that I knew for a fact that my mother paid on. We couldn't afford. I don't come from a rich family or even a wealthy family, so that wasn't an investment that my mother could make flat out. But I knew for a fact that she was paying an encyclopedia bill, and that really just kind of speaks to the value that she had placed on education and literacy. Um, and fast forward, my mother is still in, she is in the field of educating children. My mother owns a child care center. So she, educates the city's youngest learners. And yeah, and she still encourages learning with my children. So, what she instilled in us as kids has continued, to be a prominent practice in our family.
Wow. Oh my good. I'm just
Mhm.
so in awe with everything that you said. Number one, I wrote down when you said go look it up. If that ain't the
Mhm.
mantra in the Black community when it comes to that
Go
child
look it up.
talking
Go
talking
look it
about
up.
what, can you tell me what? You Go look it up. It's
Mhm.
like, oh my God. But I
Mhm.
love what you said though, in connection with that. Of course, when you are a child, you don't really, you like, dang, man. Like, I think too, we probably look at that as a way as a kid, like, man, why can't you just tell me and we can talk about it, whatever. You like almost
Absolutely.
like you trying to tell me, get out your go look it up. Say, go do it yourself. You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like you said, you appreciate though the fact that she was trying to empower you, right? So
Absolutely.
I definitely feel that. So I'm like, wow. And then
Absolutely.
also the fact of you saying that you remember her paying on those encyclopedias. And I'm
Hmm.
just smiling because I'm just like, man, like this Black experience, y'all, is real. Same here. I remember, I mean, of
Yeah.
course, back then I probably wasn't thinking that my mother was paying on it. I just knew
Right.
there were some
Okay. Okay.
encyclopedias, you know what I'm saying, that
Yeah.
a lot of Black
Yeah.
folks had in their families. And that was the thing.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, that was their way of letting us know, okay, we value reading. Of course, we say, like you said,
Absolutely.
literacy, you know what I'm saying now, but we
A-
value reading.
Absolutely.
And that
Absolutely.
really special. I love it. Did you grow up like having stories read aloud to you? Did you have those types of experiences or
So I can't say that I recall like stories being read to me.
hmm,
But I don't want to say that they weren't either. Like I
okay.
don't recall that, but I do recall having designated reading time at every stage in our life. Like even when you were just speaking, I was remembering if I would be in the car, if I would sing too many song lyrics, my mother would be like, like her quiz was say your ABCs backwards. And if you said your ABCs backwards with one mistake, it was like, don't sing another song lyric. She didn't play that because again, she was just like, you're putting too much emphasis on learning these lyrics. And then also, fast forward as we developed a little bit more, my mother worked at a clinic. And I recall her like she worked in the sex education part. So imagine her having girls and then working in the sex education part. She worked at John Glenn, if you're familiar. But my mother she would make us write reports about venereal diseases, STDs. We were, young, but it was just making the reporting for her that was a punishment for her. It was sometimes used as a punishment, but then it was also, like I said, now looking back, I see it as a tool of empowerment because we were used to writing reports. Like we had to write reports on diseases. We had to write reports on like if a summer break if the schools did not give us homework, my mother was like, that's okay. do a
Mhm.
report on this. Like there was always, something that she would be like, do a report on this. Or I could also remember that when my sister and I would fight, like as a punishment, like my mom would do things like make us sit in India style holding hands, but she would also go far as to write me a report on why should I love my sister. So it was literally like I'm saying, literacy was always used. I mean, it was overemphasized in our home. And it's funny because, before speaking with you today, I probably, didn't even realize like how much and how often, you know, my mother did promote literacy in our home. Yeah.
Oh, girl, I'm just like, I need to talk to you. My mom. Dang, literally. She is like,
Yeah.
I mean, that was so sweet. That really melted my heart when you said she would make y'all sit in Indian style,
Hmm.
hold hands, and then
Yes.
talk about,
Yes.
why you should love yourself. That right there,
Yes.
and you know why I love
Yes.
that too, because unfortunately, sometimes you have homes where, kids they kind of like lightweight encourage, like it's almost like, oh, okay, yeah, you're supposed to fight your sibling, you know what I'm saying? They ain't,
Right.
that's what makes you stronger or whatever the case may be, just kind of,
Right.
yeah, let them fight it out. But your mom didn't play.
Yeah.
Your mom
Oh
was like,
no.
oh
No,
man,
she didn't.
I'm nurturing that
No, she
loving.
did. She didn't play it.
Wow.
Hmm.
And it's and even though, it's not like you and I have like connected, like even just personally, but like through the internet, and we've had,
Hmm.
a couple of
Hmm.
times where we saw each other out, but you just
Hmm.
you have like a warm presence. I know
Oh,
people
thank
told you you
you.
do. You know what I'm saying? You just
Thank
like very
you.
warm, inviting, you know what I mean? And then because you do yoga, right? I remember seeing you doing some yoga.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So that
Yes.
so and I think, people who usually do yoga a lot of times they have that, and that's to me, you have that. But
That's Zen.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is that sin. Exactly. But I
Hmm.
see,
Hmm.
you got that, your mom was like nurturing that
Hmm.
home of love. She didn't want, all of that type of infighting or whatever. She wanted to make sure you got
Hmm.
close. And then the idea behind writing those book reports. Oh my God.
Yes. Yes.
That
Yes.
people, you know what I'm saying? Hey, y'all, listen, y'all better quit sleeping on the book report. That's something like even
Hmm.
my kids, I'll still have,
Hmm.
especially my youngest son, because I'm still homeschooling
Hmm.
him and he's 12.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
I'll tell him, I'm like, okay, you know what? You need to, write a report on this. You know what I'm saying? Like he even wrote
Hmm.
a report on talking about the things that need to be fixed in East Cleveland. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. So I'm like,
Yeah.
again, just like you said, making that connection to literacy, in reading and
Absolutely.
writing, those are basic
Absolutely.
skills that we could be doing just consistently, with our kids. I love it. Now, let me ask you this. Now, do you
Absolutely.
find yourself doing a lot of these practices with your own children? Because you
Yes, you know,
have two, right?
I do. Yes, I have a 12-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter.
Okay.
And I'm laughing more often now because, I don't know if you've ever heard that saying that says sometimes I open my mouth and my mother comes out. And I'm like, oh my God, I sound just like her.
Oh, oh.
And I didn't, I would, I made promises to myself as a kid, like, I'm not going to treat my kids like she treats us. Like, I'm not going to make them do summer reports in the summertime. I'm going to let them enjoy their summer. And I have found myself on several occasions,
Mm.
like my children, like most children, love Roblox and Fortnite and Apple products. And I'm always asking questions like, who own these products? When did they come out? Go do a report. Tell me how much Roblox is worth. Tell me, and always, and they're like, what? And now I'm like, you got it easy. You can Google the information, but I want you to put it in right information and present it to me. So my daughter will present a report in a minute, like mom, to, my husband and I, she'll say, I think I should, when she wanted a cell phone, she was like, I would like a cell phone. And I've written an essay about why, you know, as a persuasive essay, just trying to get us to understand why she wants it. Or, when she made the decision that she was ready to transfer schools, in the fifth grade, she wanted to try a new school, but she wrote an essay and presented us to us like, I would like to go to a new school, and these are the reasons why, and just forming this essay, doing it by paragraphs. It's like these little transferable skills, that I'm just like, go write. And granted, the schools are in partnership with me, so I'm not going to take full credit for them. But like just knowing that that conversation continue at home, like we promote literacy just like school did. So I want her to know, like sometimes you can't just say what you want. You have to put this stuff on paper, put it on paper, you know. And another thing, and I won't talk to you, but the
No.
last thing that I find myself doing, um, when my children wanted cell phones, I told them they had to promise me. I said, the moment I grab your cell phone and you're texting in shorthand, I'm taking it. If you're going to text, you have to text in full sentences. You have to use punctuation. You have to use capitalization. I do not want to see you with no BRB for be right back. I don't want W because we lose what we don't use. And I know that they probably think that they have this mean mom, but I'm like, look, you'll appreciate this one day because you'll struggle when it goes to, time to put a pen to paper or type of paper and you're sitting there spelling doing DION without the G, like it's robbing us. So those are some of the things that I definitely find myself, incorporating into
Mm.
my child rearing.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, number one, please, when we're having our conversation, I'm asking you, so I want you to give as much information as possible, okay? Because
Oh,
for
okay.
real,
Okay.
because
Thank you.
people, yes, you are the guest, and they want to hear more from you than they do from me. Now, I say a little bit in this conversation, but they want to hear
Okay.
from you, okay? And you are dropping the
Okay.
gems, the nuggets, the jewels. I mean, literally, soon as we lose what we don't use. I mean,
Yeah.
just basic things like that. And it's funny because my kids, they get on me because of the fact that they're, try to crack, I'm always trying to type out,
Mm-hmm.
be grammatically correct when I'm texting. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? I mean, I'm
Yes.
not saying every once in a while I may like,
Yeah.
a little something here or there, whatever. But
Yeah.
like, for the most, I'm not like, I don't like to put you, like the letter U, if I'm saying, what are
Right.
you doing? I don't
Right.
like that.
Right.
I know, and whatever, somebody,
Right.
that's
Right.
anal, like whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, like you said, and literally, and I know that you've probably seen this or have heard about this. I mean, you have these
Mm-hmm.
kids like fifth, sixth grade, and you look at their sentences and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a substitute
Mm-hmm.
teacher as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'll be reading
Yeah.
these sentences and I'll be reading these papers. I'm like, in some of
Yeah.
the schools, I'm um,
Yeah.
like how'd you get past like first, second grade? Like I'm trying to figure
Right.
it out.
Right. And you're writing like you text,
Yes.
literally.
Oh my
And
God.
there's a difference. So even that, like the baby's not understanding that there's a difference between formal writing and informal writing.
Come
So
on.
it's like, look, while you're so young
Yep.
and you can't you can't decipher the difference between these two,
Yep.
write everything like it's formal
Mm,
until you're so good at writing that you can switch back and forth. But I don't want you to be so comfortable with informal writing that when school demands, you know, like these schools aren't playing, and I don't want them to play because we have to prepare them for the real world. And it's like, you cannot go into a professional setting writing like you're texting me. So it's inappropriate.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now something I will
Yes.
have to say though, unfortunately, in a lot of these schools, I mean, you and I both, like you said, products of CMSD.
Mm-hmm.
I sub
Mm-hmm.
majority in CMSD and I sub in East Cleveland as well.
Okay.
And, a lot of the preparation that they should be getting, they're not getting. But then they'll turn around and say,
Yeah.
test these kids to death. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
you're going to give a test if you haven't showed them how to do things in the proper way. And not, and I'm trust and believe, I'm not putting the onus on the teachers. I am not doing that at all.
Completely right. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
The onus
Mm-hmm.
starts at home, just like what you and your husband are doing.
Absolutely.
You were raised with your mom, like, hey, look, this is what I
Mm-hmm.
demand of you. The rearing, the education, all of that starts at home.
Yeah.
However, like I remember being in a class and I was subbing in, and this is a sixth grader, honey.
Mm.
And literally, she could, like, I mean, she was struggling. I'm talking about on a basic level. I'm talking about, say, if it was the word character, like, say if somebody,
Mm-hmm.
right, who was the main character, like she couldn't
Mm-hmm.
even sound out the word character. You should be able to read that word in the sixth grade.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But I'm sitting up here like, okay, but your teacher had left this assignment for you guys to look up these words, write the definition. She couldn't even do that on her own. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
and as educators, it's like when you see like basic stuff like that, if you see a child, like you're supposed to look to see first, okay, can they say these words actually? Do they know how to look them up? Do they understand, what it is that they're looking for when they're writing these definitions? And if you're not doing that and making sure that the parents are on board, then therein lies a big problem that we have.
Absolutely. And you're right. And you're doing a disservice to them. I noticed like my children started out at a CMSD school, which we absolutely loved and adored. Like culture wise, it was very liberal, based on the curriculum that was there. But, as far as we were concerned, our children were getting everything that they needed. And remember, I said my daughter proposed that she wanted to be transferred. So when it was time for her to be transferred, my children were both in the gifted, they call it enrichment now, but they were both in reading and math enrichment, meaning they, were doing so well in these areas. So when it came time to transfer them to private institutions, we were appalled about how ill prepared they were. It's like, wait a minute, our kids have straight A's. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean his comprehension is low? Like, what do you mean he's in reading enrichment? Like he's excelling here. Like, what do you mean? And so that was eye-opening for us because number one, I was always against private institutions, because again, I'm a product of CMSD and just public school. So but then I was like, wow, like there's a problem here because I believe that the private institutions are preparing the children for the world. They're preparing them to be successful in the world, where I feel like sometimes the public schools are preparing them to pass public school. Like, listen, this finish line is way too close here. Like, I don't want my child to just be prepared to pass 12th grade, barely making it, and then be thrust into this real world. And they have these basic skills. So I was grateful that we did change their environment at the point that we did. But I'm like, wow, my heart still goes out to all the children who don't have that opportunity or whose, parents don't realize, because there's many of us, I'm sure there's several just like me who are like, oh, my baby got straight A's and she's doing this and she's doing that. And they don't have gifted and talented program anymore, but they do have certain schools that'll say they're gifted, they're advanced. But I'm like, but compared to who? I don't want my babies to be the best of crabs. I mean, and not talking about other children in a negative way, but I don't want them to have straight A's amongst their peers who, are barely passing. Like, I want them to be good. Like, I want them to be able, to hang with their peers in other areas and other schools. Like, because I believe that there's no difference in those children and my child, like they can learn at that rate. Their brains are developing, just as well as those, as their counterparts. So like, I want to expose my babies to the best, and with that came a different level of accountability as a parent. I'm like, oh, it isn't optional to be a partner in their education as it was in public school, which is another thing, and I don't have, look, this is non-negotiable. I'm just as involved in their school as they are, and this is the way it has to be. I'm like, okay. So just seeing the parallels, it definitely, I don't know, it was eye-opening. It was disheartening because I believe that all kids deserve the best, and they deserve the best from their parents, from their educators, from their community. And it is going to take us all, to do exactly what you're doing, and that's promoting literacy. Like, every moment is a learning moment. Like, whether you walking up the street reading the street sign or you in Chipotle reading the menu, like, you have to read everywhere you go. You have to be able to comprehend these directions on these games you sitting on, or you're in for big trouble. So everywhere our kids go, they're going to need to be able to read and understand what they're reading and be able to regurgitate it so well that they can explain it to the next person, or they're in for trouble,
Yep, that's right. That's
Yeah.
man, that's what I told
Yeah.
you. I love when you expound and you know what I'm saying, you explaining because you explain to the audience how number one, how important it is and how valuable it is for our children to have those literacy
Hmm.
skills, to have that foundational reading
Hmm.
skills, because print is every single where. Just like when that's
Everywhere.
one of the things that
Everywhere.
I tell, exactly. I tell my parents, because I'm a pre-K through fourth grade reading tutor, and I
Okay.
ask them, so like say if I have like a first grader, you know, and they're getting help, and I say one of the ways you can see that they have improved is when you start
Mm-hmm.
seeing them notice print around them, and then they're starting to read the signs that they see all around them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that is something like
Hmm.
one of my
That's
I
a
was
great indicator.
yeah, it's a great indicator. One of my students, who's my cousin, shout out to Lil Ben. I was
Mm-hmm.
tutoring him in the Cleveland Heights Library, and there's a sign on the wall, and he was like, you know, he said, "Cousin say she." He's like, what is that about?" Then he went close. I said, "Well, go ahead and go and read. You know, what
Hmm.
I'm saying what you can on there, right?" And so he did. He was able to read a couple of the words, and and then we discussed those, and then I was actually able to see one of his struggles. I said, okay, because I know you're familiar with vowel teams, like, you have EA and,
Hmm.
OU
Hmm.
and different things like that, right? So I noticed, I said, okay, I see he needs more assistance with the vowel team, EA,
Hmm.
and so I
Okay.
started giving him words that have that in there, and I think it was the word repeat as well. And so, but again, that was just
Hmm.
an example of how, like you said, noticing the print around them and encouraging them to
Hmm.
read that. And then also too,
Hmm.
it makes them be aware of their environment, because as we see,
Absolutely.
what are our kids
Absolutely.
doing? What a lot of times when they're walking down the street
Heads, heads in a device.
like that.
Absolutely. Heads down. Right. You don't know where you are. I love that. Like I love what you're saying. Like I love them reading signs everywhere they
Mhm.
go.
Yes.
Like ever since my kids were small, I would be like, direct me home. From
Ooh.
them being young, like, tell me how to get home from here. And of course, when they were young, they would say, well, turn this way and then turn this way. So now at them 12 and 14, I'll still say it. I'll say, give me directions from this point. And then if I'll tell, I ask my kids, what street is this? My son, his memory, he has more of a photographic memory. So he'll be like, this is South Boulevard. This is this is that. My daughter will be like, I forgot the street name. And I'm like, that's important. You're
Mhm.
14. You can't direct somebody by saying go right and left. I need you to say, this is the road I'm on. We're going off of this road. So like you said, it makes them aware. So now you can't afford to look at your phone because you won't know the direction you're going. So I
Mhm.
need you to look up. I need you to be able to get home from here. And
Mhm.
again, that's just literacy, promotion. Like, period. I need you to read. Some of these street names are hard. You got to sound them out, like figure it out. Figure it out.
Exactly. Yep. And then
Yeah,
and an added component to that, the safety aspect. Think about how literacy and reading is linked to your safety. Because if you sitting up there, you on your
absolutely.
phone, you looking down, all it takes is that sick, devilish predator to see what's going on and try to
Absolutely.
take advantage of you not being
Absolutely.
aware of your surroundings. I say that exact same thing to my kids. I'm like, oh my
Absolutely.
goodness. I made my son
Yeah.
actually, we had went into the store yesterday, and then one of the things I was noticing about him, he was just kind of like, I wanted him to, again, just being a mama, I'm like, I'm paying attention to
Hmm.
everything. I'm like, okay, man, he need to be more aware. He need to be, focused. And then one
Yeah.
thing I said, I know what it is. I said this day. He didn't have his phone. He wasn't on his phone at the time, but
Okay.
it was just something that I just
Hmm.
wanted him to kind of focus on, because we were looking for
Hmm.
something for him. That's what it was. And I wanted him like, I'm
Okay.
doing more than looking. So I said, okay,
Right.
when we get in the car, I said, I'm gonna tell him, like, you know what? You're not gonna be on the phone. I said, I want you to pay
Hmm.
attention, because I was listening to a podcast. And so I said, I want you to listen to the podcast. And then he was listening. Then I'm
Hmm.
asking him questions,
Hmm.
I'm saying about it or whatever.
Okay.
I want you to, write some information down based on it was something that we were listening to on the podcast. But again, to your point, just
Hmm.
having, just demanding of our children just
Hmm.
that empowerment. So number one, they are not taken advantage of, and so they can be aware of
Absolutely.
their surroundings, and that exposure piece. That's I,
Absolutely.
my gosh, and can you
That is
just
good.
even I know you talked about with the whole private school, because I mean, one of the
Mhm,
things that I think about with the private school, especially when it comes to our Black children, and I
mhm,
know that you can attest
mhm,
to that
mhm,
culture, that
mhm,
culture aspect, because that's
mhm.
one of the things that you know, I just
Where
I'd be
you're
a little
reserved
leery
because
about.
of it?
Yeah,
Oh,
because like,
absolutely.
I hear about so many Black kids, right? They'll go to these
Mhm,
private schools, and I get that's the thing, they have all of these different things that they can, have access to, right?
mhm,
But then it's like it
mhm,
seemed like they are not getting in touch with who they are and their Black culture and
mhm,
Black traditions.
mhm.
But what is your take on that?
So I agree.
Mhm.
From the moment that from the moment we were applying to our schools, I remember having this conversation with my husband
Mhm.
specifically. Sorry.
Yeah.
As you can see, I have locks. My husband has long hair, like he can wear braids. My son has locks, and he
Oh.
wore his hair kind of wild. And at the time, my daughter was starting locks. She's not locked up anymore. But I remember when we were preparing to go to the interview, I'm like, we going as us. So I
Mm.
remember my husband putting on his Jordans. I remember him having his braids. I remember we gonna be as Black as we can. And I told my kids, if they don't want us the way we are, this is not the place for us, period. Like we don't have to pretend. I did because I had to have the conversation like you are being interviewed. So therefore you do have to impress because first impressions matter,
Mhm.
but it needs to be authentically you. I'm
Mhm.
not asking you to go in here and be anybody else.
Mhm.
You be yourself, but you do show them who you are. And
Mhm.
you are intelligent and you do have sense. So I don't want you to go in here and talk to them as if you were on the phone with their friends,
Mhm.
but we are a Black family coming to a white institution that was not built for us,
Mm.
and there was an adjustment period for my husband and I because we're like, we know what we're coming here for the education. And so we knew that that would give us a greater responsibility to keep our kids grounded in their identities. So, we make very conscious decisions to keep them connected to their Black community.
Mhm.
You're going to go here and play sports, but you might play, you go here for school, but you're going to play sports in your neighborhood. You're still going to be outside. We live in a predominantly Black neighborhood. You're going to be able to adapt because, again, that's reflective of the real world for us.
Mhm.
Code switching and all of those other things, like people might argue with those, and say that you don't have to do it. But in our house, we know that the world, you can't bring your whole self to every situation. And I want to be able to teach my children there's a time and place for everything. You're going to go here, you're going to get the education. You have access to the best of the best here. And so the world is really at your fingertips. And, the final thing every day when they get out of my car, I'm like, make them remember you. Leave your mark here.
Mhm.
Like establish your footing in this world. Don't go here, and shrink. Like go here and expand. And those conversations are important and it has worked for us. I know that, in the schools that our children are in, there's been other Black families that have come and gone. And I'm sure it's not a one size fit all solution. But for us, we see the expansion of knowledge and we see the exposure of activities and sports and mindsets. Our kids' vocabulary, have advanced, like, and just even being around people who have more than we have, again, that's important for us to show our kids like we didn't make it, we're still in process and you can aspire to, we want you to be bigger, better, like we want you to be the new and improved versions of who we are, so those things work for us. Like honestly, especially educationally, like the demands that they have for our children are more in alignment with what we demand of our children. They demand excellence, we demand excellence. Like it became unacceptable for us knowing our kids had a greater potential and that wasn't the standard that they were being held accountable to. Like, so here they're being accountable to that. We know you have more. They have the resources, they have the staff, and they take the time to know our children individually. And, it's more tailor made. So there's been many benefits.
Mhm.
although we are very conscious
Right.
of the institution in which we are a part of. Like we are in no way oblivious to that fact,
Right.
and we don't hide that from our children. We
Mm.
don't hide that from our children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's definitely good. I mean, like you said, I mean, having that grounding is it's an integral part. I don't care whatever
Mm-hmm.
school environment, that our child is in or our children are in. We have to
Mm-hmm.
definitely make sure that they have that grounding, right? They understand who they are, they have
Mm-hmm.
a voice, okay, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the
Absolutely.
things, it's just one of the things that I was thinking about though, and I've always been a proponent of is us as
Mm-hmm.
our people though, we getting back into knowing that we can actually we can have the best of the best in our own schools rooted in
Okay.
our heritage and consciousness, and it's just unfortunate because
Absolutely.
I get it, what I'm saying? Families, everybody got to do what they're able to, what they're capable of doing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
schools,
Mm-hmm.
their circumstance, their struggle, what they can, just like some people, they're like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how you're able to homeschool, you know what I'm saying? I could never do that,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know what I'm saying? You have folks, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying again,
Mm-hmm.
that's a struggle, and because you have to struggle with a whole lot of things with that,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I just think about, especially in the Black community, one of the things that I'm always wanting us to do is to make sure that we understand we're the ones who are the foundation of greatness, flat out. When
Absolutely.
you look at all of these
Absolutely.
these folks who quote unquote they got the best and all that, for real, they looking at
Mm-hmm.
our society, and I'm not just talking about just Black. I'm talking about in the African
Mm-hmm.
diaspora, because when
Mm-hmm.
our
Mm-hmm.
kids understand that, when it comes to, especially when it comes to reading and knowing that, okay, here it
Mm-hmm.
is, you had in the city of Timbuktu in Africa, you had this massive library, the Sankore University,
Mm-hmm.
and you had all of these
Mm-hmm.
folks at
Mm-hmm.
that time coming to Africa to learn at the feet of our scholars. These are the things that our children got to know.
Mm.
Tell you point blank,
Absolutely.
a lot of times in white schools, they don't even be knowing. They don't
Mm-mm.
have a clue.
Mm-mm.
They'll tell
Mhm.
us in a minute, oh, okay, well, you learn about the Socratic method, and the
Mhm.
Pythagorean theorem, you
Mhm.
learn all these different things, and
Mhm.
we'll be thinking
Mhm.
from a mindset, oh wow, man, this is the pinnacle of knowledge. But then when somebody, who does some little
Mhm.
research and understand, well, actually there was a method, that whole Socratic method, that actually was
Mhm.
a method that came from Africa, that Socrates and
Mhm.
Aristotle,
Mhm.
remember all of these Greek folks, they were learning from the Egyptians. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? They were
Mhm.
getting their information from the Egyptians, who were already, astute and learned in a lot of these different things.
Mhm.
And that's the part that I just definitely, that I implore in our Black community, that we
Mhm.
just make sure that we are, staying connected on an Afrocentric level, and that we are doing that
Mhm.
research, you know what I'm saying, so that
Yeah.
kids can be empowered, man. I don't care what setting they go, so they don't go around thinking that, okay, well, this white, you know what I'm saying, institution,
White
they
is right.
exactly.
Right.
It's like, and,
Right.
and
Right.
again, I know you guys
Absolutely.
aren't doing that, but you do
No,
have
no,
people
no.
who have that mindset. And it's like, I'll be like, come on, y'all. We not
Absolutely.
gonna for
But
real.
and then I want to say, like,
Yes.
even some of those things that you just mentioned, I'm not familiar with, but I'm always open to. So you literally got me like, oh, let me look this up. But because I believe it's very important. Like I want my babies to know who they are and who they come from. So whatever way, unfortunately and fortunately, I believe the awareness that I have is that that is not the institution that I have them a part of, which is what I was saying. Like, I realize we have a greater responsibility to keep that side of our children growing and expanding. I know that this institution will not do it. Therefore, I don't even have the expectation. Like, I'm not going to come here and make noise and say, y'all not teaching them this.
Come
No,
on.
you teach them really well what you're teaching them. And the rest, I will take responsibility for.
Mm,
It's no different than, to me, I'll take full responsibility on my children's spirituality. Like, I don't need that from a school, and that was just a decision I made. Like, I'll take responsibility for that portion. You can educate them academically, and I'll educate them spiritually to give them, like, I'll be that one. And so I feel like as parents, we have to be willing to know. You have to be aware of the institutions that you have your children a part of,
mhm.
because without that awareness, then you won't know the gaps that are there. And without knowing what the gaps are there, you won't know what gaps you need to fill.
Come on.
And I think that that's important for us to know, like, these are the gaps that they're not getting there. So these are the gaps that we need to make sure that home is providing.
Yeah.
Like, it works together in tandem, it's not one without the other, it's one and the other.
Exactly, exactly. And we already know anyway, when it comes to this educational system, I mean, we know by design, it was not made for
Mm-hmm.
Black people to thrive. I mean, just like you said,
Yeah, yeah,
BMSP
yeah,
experience with your children, it's like you like, oh
yeah,
man, they doing great. They ain't gifted and
yeah,
talented, or, enrichment and all of that.
yeah,
Then, next thing
yeah.
you take them out, you put them, in this other institution. It's like, oh
Mm-hmm.
no, well, you don't know, they don't know this and this and this. And it's like, because
Yeah,
again, our kids are not being equipped to think globally. I love when you said that piece. I love it.
yeah,
But they
yeah,
are really being equipped to just be workers for real, just to work
yeah,
9 to 5.
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
Point blank.
no, and in a great words of um oh my God.
It's okay.
What's his
It'll come
name?
to you.
What is his name?
Who?
The motivational speaker, dark
Oh,
skin.
Les Brown. Les
Les
Brown.
Brown.
Oh
Yes,
yes.
and in the great words of Les
Come
Brown,
on.
no one ever rises to low expectations. So if we
Mm.
have these low expectations, there's nowhere for them to rise to. Like, so
Amen.
I don't need them in an environment that if that's the expectation. Like,
Mm.
I need high expectations because that's what I have of them. And that's the message that I want to, be echoed in whatever other institution that they're a part of. I need you to expect the highest from them because that's what I believe they're capable of.
Come on. Come on. Well, speaking of expectations and speaking of just rising to a high level, this is a great segue into your book. Okay.
Okay.
So
All right.
yes, yes, indeed. Because, I know obviously, anytime you got somebody who is, writing a book that, is trying to empower our people, trying to
Hmm.
heal, our community, that means that you have high expectations for our folk.
Hmm.
So I want you to tell
Absolutely.
us, about your book, give everybody the title and tell everybody
Okay.
when you came up with the idea, what was going on, that
Okay.
made you produce your work.
Perfect. Perfect. So in I believe 2019, so it's about 5 years ago, I just kind of felt inclined to go a little bit deeper in my mother-daughter work. I established my mother-daughter nonprofit. It's called Mended Inc. We became an established organization in 2017. And so from 2017, for the first couple of years, I would gather women together and we would create this safe space or brave space, I like to say, for women to just heal their mother wounds. Before we did it, I never really saw a space for our women to come and actually talk about this unspoken pain that that had really plagued our community. And it was funny because when I first started the work, I thought this was a Black thing. I thought Black daughters and mothers just can't get along because I knew none who did. In my family, there were no positive relationships between mothers and daughters. And then in the lives of my friends, like maybe some of them had, you know, the superficial relationships, but still there was no genuine connection. And even when there was a disruption or hurt, there was no space to work on that. So we were doing that work. And then in 2019, I just felt like this, this itch to like write this stuff down. So for women who weren't coming to our groups or our workshops, like how could I place something in their hands? And I think it was at that time when I was reacquainted with like the artist in me, because I was an artist growing up as a child, and then my art took different form in cosmetology. So I stopped. I always wrote, like, again, my mother made us write. So I was a writer. I wrote short stories, I wrote poems, like I was always writing. And so up until this point, when I felt the inclination to start to capture my thoughts came out in poems. And so I actually fought that because I was like, who's gonna buy a book of poems? And poems isn't, poems, that's not a novel. Well, you know how we're our worst critic. So anyway, I felt some relief when I realized I'm like Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni, like all of these people came to mind for me, uh, you know, and so I just wrote them down. I just wrote everything that came to mind, and my thoughts flowed so easily. Zaysha, like I was shocked. Like I couldn't believe how easily my thought, like this stuff was just in my heart, like just waiting on me to grab a pen and come out. And so after I felt this gumption, like it's complete. After I felt like it was complete, I called it the both sides of the story. And because my goal was to show mothers what daughters were feeling during the relationship, and then also to show daughters what mothers were experiencing while they were raising them, like the dilemmas that they were facing. And so both sides of the story was my working title. Um, and it eventually changed to Our Perfect Chaos. So by the time I published, the title was Our Perfect Chaos, and it's a poetic dialogue between a mother and her adult daughter. It still has the same, premise of sharing both sides of the story. Like I wanted a woman to be able to pick my book up and read it, whether she was a mother or daughter. I wanted her to get insight of that other side. I wanted her to find some type of refuge. Like I wanted her to feel as if she wasn't alone in her struggle, but I also wanted to validate her and make her feel seen. So I wanted to capture these experiences that I know so many of the women that look like me had. From in our community, it was common for us to feel as if our mothers chose the men in their lives over us. It was common for our mothers to be single moms. It was common for us to have been sexually assaulted by someone that we knew, be it an uncle, be it a grandfather, be it a mom's boyfriend. Um, it was common for these types of things to happen. And so I wanted to be the one to talk about them. And I also wanted to share the other side of that. And what was so unique was I wasn't the mother, but I believe that, and I'm not trying to go too spiritual, but I do believe that the Holy Spirit was giving me this insight. Like I was able to write from the perspective of a mother, as if I had been a mom of, a daughter who was molested. I was able to just kind of write and give her. And again, because most of our mothers had that same experience, but nobody talked about it. So you have the daughter crying about the mom who didn't do anything about her being touched or, raped or violated in any way. But then nobody ever talked about that mother not being able to save her because she still was a little girl wanting to be saved, or this experience that happening to her, or even like because that was a situation from my experience, but even in my own experience, my mother did in fact go a step further, and speak out to my abuser. Like it didn't go as far as I would like, but there is no credence given to the moms who actually tried, even if it wasn't complete. So I just wanted to like provide this space where women could actually read in an artistic, conversational manner, like, wow, I wasn't alone. This only didn't happen to me. And more than anything, I wanted mothers and daughters to walk away being able to identify the real enemy and noticing that that wasn't each other. Like because mothers and daughters believe that they believe that they're the enemy. And I wanted my book to show that no, there's a greater fight at hand. Like this is society, this is patriarchy, this is sexism, like this is emotional disempowerment. This is, we still dealing with the side effects of slavery. All of those things are at play, but it's not each other, and that was my goal. That was my goal in my book. And to date, I believe that the feedback I receive, I believe that that's the goal. I mean, my goal is being accomplished one reader at a time. One reader at a time.
You took me to a place, sis. You took me to a place. Wow. I gotta sit in that. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
because, you know, this is real reading talk. You know, I do not have
Mhm.
a relationship with my mother.
Okay.
And it goes, I mean, way back to when I was a kid. I mean, it's like I can't
Mhm.
remember a time where you have those, you know, you have situations where you have that child, you know, especially a daughter, being able to, you know, talk to their mom, and you know, they go through,
Mhm.
mother and daughter time, or you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying, or you just get to simply just hug your mother and hold her, you lay on her lap, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? None of that, no kind of that type of affection like that. Now, I'm not saying that she never told me that she,
Mhm.
loved me or anything like that. I mean, I've gotten that, I remember sometimes or whatever, but not in a, still everything was just survival. Everything was,
Mhm.
I remember not her really smiling at me, just having this, coming home from work, just kind of scowl, like ready to, did you do this? Did you do that?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I'm not gonna turn this into a therapy session, because that's what it gets her. I'll be like, girl, let me tell you what else that you know what I'm saying. So,
That's all right.
I
That's
ain't
all
trying to
right.
jump up on you like that, okay? But dang,
Mhm.
I'm just listening like, oh dear, oh my God, man. I'm so, you ended how you summed it
Mhm.
up when you said we are not each other's enemy.
Mm-mm. We are not. We are not.
We are not each other.
No.
Because as you were talking, because I would literally, I was going to ask you, where do you think
Mhm.
it comes from? But you literally, you said it, you answered the
Mhm.
question before I even got a chance to ask you. That just shows how your
Mhm.
brilliance is, right? You're forward thinking, because, you're not just going to just talk about, these issues in our community,
Mhm.
that this is a
Mhm.
common thing, because you
Yeah.
like, okay, I have to literally tell you, okay, this is from what you know and your study and understand.
Yeah.
You understand that there's a foundation to this. When you mentioned
Absolutely.
the patriarchy and the sexism,
Mhm.
literally that's under
Mhm.
the umbrella, all of those things you talk about, all those
Mhm.
isms and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
whole umbrella of that is the false notion of white supremacy. That whole,
Mhm.
that
Absolutely.
it stems from the slave plantation. It
Mhm.
stems from the
Absolutely.
fact of having us be in discord, having us be dismembered as a
Mhm.
community, not having a connection. You know what I'm saying? If you're always in
Mhm.
survival mode, you always,
Absolutely.
in fact, I know you heard of Dr. Joy DeGruy, right? Dr. Joy DeGruy. Well, I'm sorry. Look, I'll be
Wait.
Dr.
Look, you got me a whole reading list by the time we finish this.
Okay. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. That's her book.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely. I have
yeah.
not read that book, but I have it. I have it.
You got
I
it?
have it. I have not read it.
Okay, good.
I
I was
have
about to
it.
say,
I
honey, I am
have it.
going to give you a
I
copy
have
of it.
that.
Okay, good.
I
Okay.
have that book. Uh-huh.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Because that
Mm-hmm.
whole aspect,
Yes.
I mean, when she talks about that when she gives that story of before I say that real quick, let me grab my
Mm-hmm.
charger, which I should have already had it close with my thing about to die. Woo. My son is in he's the one who edits my podcast, so this part can be edited out.
Oh, oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
You're right. So I'm like,
Employ the babies. Okay.
yes. So, but when she gave that story about that mother who does not celebrate her child, and
Mm-hmm.
she gives a story about, it's a white mother and a black
Mm-hmm.
mother, and the white mother,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, no, the black mother says to the white mother, oh, I see your child, and I think
Mm-hmm.
he's doing a great job, so he's succeeding,
Yep.
he's soaring. And then the white mother, she's just beaming with pride and like, oh yes, you know what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
whoop de whoop. And
Mm-hmm.
then the white mother realizes that the black mother, black mother's child, what I'm saying, with a child rather of the black mother,
Mm-hmm.
he's doing phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? He's soaring
Mm-hmm.
even above her child. And she was like,
Mm-hmm.
your child, little Muhammad, he doing great. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
then the mother's like, oh, girl, please. You know what I'm saying? That boy, he got
Mm-hmm.
on my nerves. You know what I'm saying? You should see him at home. He
Mm-hmm.
always trip. And then she said, even though she's beaming with pride, It's just that in her, she feels like she can't celebrate her child out loud. And then
Right.
Dr. Joy takes it back to why that is. The slave master.
Why?
The slave
Right. They would
master.
take him.
Thank you.
Right. He was
Thank
right.
you.
Right. After he was
Oh,
property, he would go at a high cost. So
he'd go
no,
at
I
a
have
high
to
cost.
minimize his
Yes.
greatness. I gotta play him down like he's
Thank you.
smaller. Absolutely.
And then when it comes to the
Absolutely.
daughter, and think about what happened to our daughters. I remember, matter of fact, got the book right here. You know what I'm saying? Incidents of a Life of a Slave Girl, Harriet Jacobs. You know what I'm saying? And just talking about how, you know, the incidents where you had that Black girl having to be prepped, like literally, like, okay, this is going to happen to you. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna get raped.
Not it might, but it
Thank
is.
you. It is.
It's inevitable.
Right.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
Like
So
this is going to be your rite of passage.
yes. So try
Yeah.
try not to fight it off. You know what I'm saying? Withstand it. You know what I'm saying? Because the whole point in that is survival. How demonic
Absolutely.
is that?
Right. And for so long, that's what it's been. It's been survival. And we're still seeing that. We're still seeing that to this day. Even though we don't have to live in survival mode as much. Like there's some families that are still very much entrenched in that reality. But then there's some who have crossed over, but they still don't even realize it. And which is the mothers and daughters that typically that I get to work with, like they don't realize it. And you know what's so beautiful? Like I love what you're saying because that has definitely been the experience with our people, with the mothers and daughters that look like me. Those are the wounds that we're trying to heal. But it blew my mind when most of my clients now don't look like me. And at first I was like, well, I don't know what to do with y'all because y'all different. Okay.
Wow.
And it blew my mind that just as much as this is a Black issue, it's a woman issue. You know, because women, period, have been second-class citizens forever. We have been disempowered forever. And so before I could come and tell you to tell your mom sorry or tell your daughter sorry, like I have to show you all of these other things that have been playing in the background that have literally been controlling us like puppets. I have to let you know about all the other institutions that benefit from our discord.
Yeah.
Like this world benefits from mothers and daughters being at odds. It's been a successful mechanism to keeping our communities apart because a mother supporting her adult. Imagine if we had grandmothers still active in their grandchildren's lives today because them and their daughters are so close. Imagine if we had daughters our age respecting and valuing the insight and wisdom that our moms have, but the world has successfully indoctrinated us and made us think that they're the waste of the land, like they got it all wrong. So throw away everything that they did and start from scratch. And we will waste a lifetime if we think that we can come up with this entire base of knowledge within the time that we're here while we're raising our kids. Like this world loves seeing us at odds. It loves it. It keeps the men in power. It keeps us all fighting to be heard. And it keeps us distracted from what's really important. Like if we were on one accord, we could fight the real battles. We could fight the real battles. If I got along so well with my mom, and if my mother didn't believe that I was being a lazy, irresponsible young mother, she would willingly help me with my children and make sure that they're reading nightly. So that when I'm working my extra job, like the family won't have as much lack as they do. But everybody's operating in silos because everybody is blinded. Like I'm so mad at you. I don't want you a part of my kid's life because you did this to me when I was a kid. When this mom is a totally different person now, and your child is missing out on a grandparent because you haven't done your work or realized that she didn't know any better. But while you're grown, she's developing. And she still has some stuff that she can give your kid, even if you got to fill in the gaps.
Mm.
And then it also keeps us distracted because while I'm so focused on your gaps and what you lack, that means that's all the time I'm taking away from my gaps. I don't have no time to fix my gaps if I'm focused on yours.
Come on.
And that cycle is perpetuated over and over and over and over. And it breaks my heart. So I use my book, I use whatever I can to just tell women, like, look, we are not each other's enemies. I have a line in my book that says, I forget, but it basically says, my daughter came as my teacher, but I thought she was my rival. Like, they come out the womb, like a daughter is a mother's uncomfortable mirror. They come out the womb teaching us. They show us our unrealized potential.
Come on.
They show us all the races that we didn't finish racing.
Ooh.
They teach us, but we get so offended by it because it's uncomfortable. So we just try to knock all that stuff down. We try to show her, look, you ain't gonna overpower me. I'm the grown one. You ain't gonna talk to me like you can't teach me. I know everything. So this power struggle for nothing. And the only thing that happens is the family suffer. The generational family suffers because we didn't get any better while we was arguing. But we could get so much better if we're not arguing. You know, like all of this work began with me and my mother. And my mother, I love her so much. And I'm not saying that she's any different than she was when I started this journey. Of course, she's made improvements, but it's me. Like, I had to realize she is not my enemy. She did not hate me. And the hand that she was dealt made it very difficult for her to be present for me. But she's not my enemy. And now that I've gained this awareness and healed and did my work, the only thing I care to do is help usher her into her place of healing. That's the only thing. I don't have the little girl that wants to be vindicated anymore because I realized that lady don't have the capacity to heal me. Like, now she a sister. Like, this is a woman to woman. I see her as a woman. Like, wow. When I'm going through things and I'm like, oh my God, I have to make a decision on how to discipline my kid or what to do in a split second. Sometimes you don't have all the information. You just gotta make the decision and wing it. And sometimes we guess right and sometimes we guess wrong. When I think about that now, when I look at my mother and I'm like, wow, she's trying to actualize her dreams. Over the years, there's been men she was with that have taken from her. What can I expect from her? I can't expect her to be emotionally present in a way that she was never emotionally, supported. I can't expect that. And it gives me the ability to empathize with her. And it gives me the ability to love her unconditionally, literally. It really does. And I won't lie and say I'm perfect because some days I do get like, here she go. But I can recover quicker from that because I'm reminded, like, Tia, she's doing the best that she can. She's trying. Yep.
That I And the only way I can follow up with that is, you guys, listen, y'all got to get this book. Y'all got to get this book.
Yes.
And you have to
Yeah.
follow Tierra Banks. I mean,
hold on 1 second.
please.
Hold on.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
No,
I have somebody start up.
yeah.
I got about 5 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And that's perfect because
Okay.
just about to wrap it up. I want you to tell everybody where they can follow you and how they can purchase your book, because this is a must have.
Okay.
This is a mic drop,
Thank
right?
you.
Go ahead, sis.
I appreciate that. So,
Yes.
you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook. My personal page is I am Tierra Banks. My organizational page is at Mended Inc. CLE. So that's MENDEDINC And that's on Instagram and Facebook. Also, professionally, we're on LinkedIn, the Mended Foundation. I have a website, mendedrelationships.com. I'm not hard to find at all.
Cool.
But if you would like to purchase the book, there's a link to the book on the website. It's also available on Amazon. Just search Our Perfect Chaos, a poetic dialogue between a mother and her adult daughter by Tierra Banks. Yeah, those are the ways. Those are the ways. Find me, however.
Oh, yes. And I am definitely proud to say that ABC Read had purchased books, from you as well. And we will also you guys donated books as well. So we thank you again for that. And actually, shout out
Absolutely.
Judge Dawson, because he was the one too
Yes.
who had gave me the plug too. He said, "Oh yeah, this sister right here, he was big up in you." Okay. So yes, indeed.
I appreciate that. And he don't play about literacy. We know that, right?
We already know.
Like,
Okay.
he reads.
Okay, for real. So I want to thank you. This has been a phenomenal conversation. Once again, heartwarming. You are doing the hard work, and you are doing some work that's needed in our community, mending those relationships between that mother and that daughter. And it just makes me think about one thing I would like to say. One of the things, sayings that we say in the Islamic faith is that paradise lies at the feet of the mother. Okay, so the mother is like, the mother, I mean, you talking about reverence the womb that bore you. Yes, paradise lies at the feet of the mother. Okay, and that, so you, honey, you getting on me in I'm just keeping it.
I love it.
You getting on me. You getting
I love
on me.
it.
And I appreciate you.
Call me whenever we need to do lunch.
Yes, definitely.
Talk about it.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that.
Yes.
At the feet of the mother. I love that.
Yes, indeed. Well, again,
yes. And another, before if I could just say this one thing, a mother who came to one of our workshops a long time ago, she told us a saying that a mother is only as happy as her saddest child. And I was like, that means that our mothers, when we're heartbroken, wherever they are, they're somewhere feeling our pain, no matter what the world tells us. They're somewhere feeling our pain. Yeah. Yeah.
That mother, that mother-child bond, you know what I'm saying? That's a whole nother level.
Yeah, it's like no other. Oh, it's like no other. Like no other. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This has been amazing. I love your spirit. I love what you're doing. I love how you're a literary giant in our community. Anytime I think of books, I think of you. I think of Krishan, and I think of you, period, point out. Like, I'm like, anytime they say anything, I'm like, where they at? Like, ABC not here, where they at?
I love it. Oh, man.
Love it. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
Keep doing it.
You. Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
All righty.
Okay, well, everybody, this has been another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am your most gracious host, Miss Sasha. And please remember to keep reading for at least 30 minutes a day. And remember, reading is freedom. Take care.
Reading is freedom. See you later.
Yes, bye-bye.
Well, again, I hope that you all gained so much insight after listening to this episode. I'm telling you, if this is an episode for real, y'all probably need to listen to again. And especially for my mothers and daughters out there, I would highly recommend that you listen to this episode together because Tierra Banks, she was bringing it, she was raw, and I already know that the book is going to be even more open and authentic and transparent. And I will definitely make sure I have the link in the description box so you all can make sure that you purchase that book, all right? And of course, just get into some housekeeping real quick. I'm the founder and executive director of ABC Read, nonprofit organization. And our mission is to develop and nurture a culture of literacy in Black and underserved communities. And I would love for you guys to make sure you go to abcread.org so that you can check out our work. We've given away over 6,000 books, all right? So please check us out, okay? Also, I am a pre-K through fourth grade reading tutor, and the name of my reading tutoring business is ABC Learn Tutoring. It's summertime, so if your child is in need of some extra help when it comes to reading, the foundational skills and building a strong reader, please go to my website, abclearntutoring.com, and click on the free reading assessment today. And make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Reading is freedom, y'all. Got over 1,000 subs. Holla. So please make sure you subscribe, all right? And make sure that you share this podcast. It's on all the podcast platforms. Please make sure you do that. And I want to also remind you all about BAM, the merch. readingisfreedom.store. At the end of this video, you will see the little reminder showing you all to make sure that you click in the description box to make sure that you get your purchase on. All right, we got some dope merch out there encouraging reading, because that's exactly what we need in our communities. And last but not least, I want to end on the book that I've been reading. And one of the books that I've been going back to a lot is Spare the Kids, Why Whooping Children Won't Save Black America, okay? Period, point blank. Make sure that you all get that book. We need that in our community. And I want to end with this, with the quote, which is reading should be done more than watching television, all right? Or in this case, on our devices, all right? And that quote actually came from Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, all right? Please make sure you look her up. All right, y'all. You all take care. Thank you again for listening to another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am your most gracious host, Ms. Sasha. And remember, reading is freedom.